Hey everyone, it's Kevin Jones with Life, Mind, and Money. Today we're going to be discussing your FICO score. Yes, almighty FICO, or maybe just your credit score. But did you know how a credit score is actually put together? And also some things that you can do to affect your credit score in a positive way so that in a short period of time you're in an excellent category. So let's analyze its structure and exactly what a credit score means for your finances. As always, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel or looking for new content, please hit the subscribe button below, as I would certainly appreciate it. Also, don't forget the little notification bell, as it will update you when new videos come out. So your credit score is determined primarily by FICO, which stands for the Fair Isaac and Company, which was founded back in 1956. And the organization put this algorithm to get this credit score determined. And it really started picking up in popularity in the 1970s. But by 1989, the term FICO score really became mainstream and was starting to be used for determining if people were viable for handling debt. There are other metrics out there, but your FICO score is honestly the leading metric that most creditors use. Think about all the things that we use debt on. I mean, a mortgage, a car, a business, education. The list goes on and on. Our credit score is even used when we rent and buy things, even when debt is not involved. It's amazing the importance of your credit score when we're making purchases or large financial transactions. Not only to see if you are worthy of being lended money, but also to determine what kind of interest rate you can get on any of these transactions. With society putting such an importance on all of these items next to me, I want to make sure that you have a really good understanding about how your credit score is made up so that you can have a positive influence on it. So now, in order for us to determine what your credit score is, we need to actually understand the actual score structure in play here. As you can see on my side, it's broken into 5 major categories, and your point total can range anywhere from 300 points to 850. So it starts at the top, which is excellent, which we're all trying to achieve. That's how you're going to get the best interest rates when you are seeking credit. And that score ranges from 850 to down to 800. And it progressively goes lower and lower, down to very good, good, fair, and then poor. Obviously, if you're in the lower categories, you've got some work to do. And you may struggle to actually achieve credit, or if you do get qualified for credit, it's going to cost you a lot because your interest rate is going to be very high. So now that you understand the point structure, now we need to figure out exactly how is my credit score put together, because this will give you the elements that you'll need to tackle and put emphasis on in order to maintain that high score. So as you see over here, I've got a chart of exactly of the 5 components, again, of what comprise your credit score. So let's go through them. The first piece of it, which makes up the biggest chunk, and that's 35% of it, is your payment history. As you can imagine, creditors and the credit card companies and everybody else, including the people who are putting your score together like FICO, want to know if you're paying on time. I mean, if they're going to lend you money, they need to know exactly that you're paying exactly on the schedule that they set for you. Because if they're not, naturally the system is going to severely hurt you and take points away from your score. If you're missing one payment, that's all it takes in this system. So the second piece of this chart, which makes up 30% of it, is how much debt do you owe. Now there's 2 major components to this. So if you owe a lot of debt, obviously it's going to hurt you in the score. But the other thing you got to focus on is what's called a ratio. That is like when you own a credit card, they're going to give you a limit, and let's say it's $10,000. Well, if you're only using $1,000 of that $10,000, you're using a ratio of 10% because that's your utilization. And that's a good thing. They want to see low utilization rates, even though a lot of credit has been given to you. So just keep this in mind. Even though you've been given credit, pay down that debt as fast as possible and keep those limits low. If you start maxing out credits based on this system, it will severely hurt your score. So the third component of this list, while it only makes up 15% and not nearly as much as the first two items, is length of time. So creditors want to know, how good of a steward are you with debt? Can you maintain debt for a long period of time, keep paying those payments on time over and over and over? Because that looks good. It means that you know how to maintain debt for long periods of time, so that if you got brought on new debt, you're most likely to be able to maintain that as well. So just keep in mind, it's not as much as the first two items, but it is important that as long as if you're going to do it, if you're going to have a credit card and you're not going to use it, you're probably better off not closing it and just keeping it open and shredding the card, because that will help your long-term score of length of credit. So the last two items, which only make up 10% on each of them, which doesn't make a severe impact, but they're worthy of talking about, is that the first one is type of credit. Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a credit card? Do you have an auto loan? Do you have school loans? There's lots of different types of debt out there, but they want to make sure that you're not all just credit. They want to make sure that you can actually maintain a mix of different credits out there in order to make you sure that you're a good steward of all of these. So that's why there's a 10% impact on your score relating to this subject. Now the next one you want to worry about is the amount of inquiries. Once again, it's only 10% of the makeup, but if you're out there looking for new credit all the time, it is going to bring down your score a bit. Because what you want to be looking for here is that while score wants to reward you for being good stewards of debt, it also doesn't want to make sure that you're not seeking debt all the time, only selectively. So in this situation, you only want to be seeking out new debt when you need it, because you want to keep that inquiry score very low, which will help your overall credit score, your FICO score. So now that you have a basic understanding of the 5 components that make up your credit score, you can really see that the ones that you want to focus on are the top 2 ones. And that is making sure that you're paying on time and that you're keeping your debt low. I mean, it's simple. I mean, if you really think about it, if you're going to be pulling out debt, then take care of it. Knock it out. Make sure that you're paying always on time. And if you really stick to those 2 things, that makes up 65% of this graph. And you'll see that your credit score will go up if you really focus on these 2 items. It's not to say that the other 3 aren't as important, but that should be your primary focus. So if you want to boost your credit score and get it up into the excellent category of 800 points or more, you need to focus on these key items. Number 1 is that you got to never, ever miss a payment. I can't tell you the importance of this. By simply missing a payment, your score can drop anywhere from 90 to 110 points. So make sure that anytime that you're using debt, you always pay on time. Number 2 on the list, and that is keep your debt ratio small. So even though you've got a huge credit card balance that you can use all a bunch up, just make sure that don't use it a lot and keep the balance very small. Also, with mortgage and stuff, just keep piling away at it. So even though you've got a lot of money that you can use from a creditor, make sure to only use a small sum of it. And that includes also paying down your debt as quickly as possible. The third thing you need to focus on is that only use credit when you absolutely need it. A small key of your makeup, once again, is about inquiries. And if you randomly start seeking out new credits, even if you don't accept them, it'll start having a negative effect. So only seek out credit when you absolutely need it. And the fourth thing you should focus on is, even if you've gone so far to have some credit cards open and you don't use them anymore, don't close them. Part of your score, as we talked about, is the length of history that you've had with them. So just leave them up, cut up the card, but leave the account standing at a 0 balance even if you're not going to use it. It'll build up your history. These steps will boost your score significantly and put you in a very good to excellent category in a matter of months. It just depends on how much you stick to the plan and get after it. So while we've discussed a few things about how your score is made up and also how you can go about in boosting your score into that excellent category of 800 and more, and obviously in a short period of time, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few things along the way. While your FICO score or your credit score is a measurement of how you handle debt, as you've heard many times on this channel, this is all about getting out of debt or managing your debt in a really responsible way. I recognize that many of us will need debt here and there, especially if you're thinking about buying a home. You're probably going to need a mortgage. But also, remember that you don't want to be succumbed to just your FICO score. And it shouldn't be a reason for you, because you have an 800 score, to go get more debt at a low interest rate. The goal here is that use debt responsibly, if at all. The key here is that you want to be using cash, and we talk about that a lot on this channel. So use debt responsibly and don't let your score give you a reason to go get more of it. As I explained before, when I was young, I got myself into all kinds of debt and trouble, and I built this massive hole that I had to dig out of. And while I got out of it and prospered and moved forward, I should have never used debt or frankly worried about my credit score in the way that I did. So my last comment is honestly to be careful. Credit cards companies are going to be coming after young people and all. They already roam our college campuses promising a free t-shirt because you open up a credit card with them. These are the last thing that young people need to be doing. And even us old ones who've been around the block a few times, we should only use credit when we need it. Certainly if you're buying a home, make sure you've got a great down payment, but use that mortgage responsibly. So just remember, use caution when you're doing it, that your credit will automatically build over time. You don't need to just swarm it and start maxing out credit cards. Use cash when you absolutely can. Thanks for watching. And in Life, Mind, and Money, we focus on life. Almighty FICO wants to have a big part of your life, but you've got to determine how much you want to let it in. Yes, you're going to need credit from time to time, but don't be succumbed by it. And also, don't let that score determine how you run your finances. Just stick to a good game plan, keep your debt low, and use credit only wisely and when you need it. That's a great game plan for your life going forward. If you haven't already done so, please smash that like button, as I appreciate all your help taking on the YouTube algorithm. Also, I would love to hear from you. Let me know your stories. How are you handling your credit score and your FICO score? Let me know down in the comments. And lastly, if you haven't done so, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to this channel, as I appreciate all of your support out there in the YouTube world. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.